Good evening, you fantastic and glorious degenerates of this floating rock that we call Earth. Welcome back to another special edition of Off the Wire. I am your host, Noel Olin, aka the Cajun Libertarian. And tonight we have a very special and amazing episode prepped out for you tonight, which I will be joined by Jeff Charles, Chasing for Liberty, author and writer, almost 70,000 followers on Twitter. It's going to be an exciting night. Here are the topics. Is the Biden administration giving who power over U.S. pandemic response? Google expands its war on quote unquote, we were always going to put that in scare quotes, disinformation. And we uncover government funded censorship. This is going to be alarming. This episode is going to come with many facts and receipts, and we are here for it because this is something that's detrimental to our society, and we have to combat it, and we have to do it now. So let's get into it. Let's dig into it tonight on Off the Wire, coming up right now. Yes, indeed. Welcome back to Off the Wire. I am your host, Noel Lynn, aka the Cajun Libertarian, and we're going to have a fantastic episode tonight. We're going to make it right at an hour, if not less, so stay tuned with us. These are topics that you need to hear, and you need to be able to communicate to your neighbors, your family, your friends, all of the above. With that being said, now, let's hear a word from my good friend and mentor, Spike Cohen. You're listening and watching to one of the fastest and largest growing podcasts on the planet.
The game plan of You Are the Power is pretty simple. We find people who are being harmed or abused or neglected or mistreated by their local governments. And this is my life's work. We want to help people.
This is something that has already began to affect real change. This isn't some distant, futuristic, utopian dream. It's already happening. It's making its course. It's making waves right now as we speak.
If you want to learn how to become an effective activist and then to do actual activism and actually help people now, not wait for, like you said, some distant utopian future where libertarians take over the world and leave everyone alone. If you want to do that now, that's what we're doing. This next year is going to be the year that people see what liberty actually looks like. Not what it sounds like, not what our philosophy is, but what the actual results and idea, what the solutions behind what we do. So that's what I'm doing with You Are the Power. I would love for you to be a part of it. YouAreThePower.net. We'd love for you to become a member. And this is my life's work.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Spike. Thank you, YouAreThePower.net. Please go sign up and subscribe to their daily email. You can get it for free. You can get exactly what they're downloading every day, the projects that they're working on. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely actual real liberty being resolved in their communities, in your community, each and every day. YouAreThePower.net. So please go and check them out. Now, with that being said, let's get on with the show. I'm going to bring on Jeff Charles joining me online now. Jeff, how are you, my man?
I'm doing great now that I'm with you, brother.
Hey, man, I love that response. Same, man. Same, brother. I am super excited to have you here. You're an author. You're a writer. Tell us a little bit about how you came to be in this movement and what inspires you to keep going.
Yeah, so I'll try to put it in a thumbnail sketch here, but I've been in the world of political commentary since 2017. I started writing for a site called Liberty Nation. I also write for redstate.com. I'm also a contributor for Newsweek Opinion every now and then too. But I've always been more of a conservative libertarian type. But in reality, I always lined up with libertarians more when it came to policy and ideology and then things like that. There's some differences here and there, but in general, I would basically label myself as a conservatarian. And so basically, I use my platform to speak to a more Republican audience because I was more on the side of the reforming the GOP side of the debate rather than joining the Liberty movement. But I always paid attention to the Liberty movement and also the Libertarian Party. And one thing that I always said is that, you know, if the Libertarian Party ever were to start being taken seriously, like as in taking themselves seriously and wanting to actually start winning, I might be tempted to jump ship because, as you already know, the GOP is it's a monolith. It's a machine. It's very hard to affect any kind of positive change. The Republican Party does not stand up to, does not adhere to the values that it says that it has. Although I will say that it has had more of a libertarian influence over the past few years, but it's been very minor. So a lot of my platform was designed to help to reform the GOP to get them to live up to what they were saying. But I figured at some point I would probably get to where I am right now, because even at heart, I was still more of an anarchist. I just viewed the GOP as a better vehicle through which to promote that agenda. After the past midterm elections, I realized I couldn't do it anymore. I found myself voting a lot more for libertarians than for Republicans. And long story short, I started seeing some good things from the Mises Caucus. I had been watching kind of the struggle from the outside, and I saw that they took over. I saw their plans for a decentralized revolution. And I started doing what we call Liberty Spaces on Twitter, using the Twitter Spaces platform. We call them Liberty Spaces, my partner and I, Donnie. We do them pretty much every night, although we have taken a little bit of a break over the past few weeks because we've both been traveling. And so after we started doing that, we had people reach out to us from the Liberty movement. We had people like Spike Cohen, who I already knew, but then I had him, Michael Heiss, people from the Libertarian Party in Texas, where I am. And it's been quite a wild ride, even just already. So that's kind of how I came more towards the Liberty movement. I haven't really changed my beliefs. I'm just changing more of my method. So I'm really glad to be over here where people actually, mean what they say when they talk about liberty.
Right.
Nice.
No, right. That I love that so much. As somebody who was apolitical for basically their entire life up until the pandemic tyranny, I'm sort of in a unique advantage as to where I was neither Republican or Democrat because I just was not political whatsoever. I was raised in a Christian conservative home, but my parents, they did not vote Republican. They voted Democrat a lot, right? So all that being said, I can completely be empathetic towards your being more constitutionally conservative based and relating towards how the Libertarian Party is now moving. Because I still feel that at our roots as a country, if we're going to succeed, if we're going to defeat the progressivism that is the cancer of our culture and our governmental institutions, then we're going to have to be able to be based back within the Bill of Rights, back within the Declaration of Independence, which really to me just highlights and points and directs everyone to individual freedom and individual liberty. So with that being said, I wanted to touch on a couple of things that you actually sent me. But before we do that, I wanted you to go ahead and let everybody know where we can follow you, where we can support you. I've already put one up here, chasingliberty.substack.com. You write for Liberty Nation and Red State, but also I have your, if people want to support you otherwise, your Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, and Fresh Perspective Pod, or that is PayPal. Sorry,
that's PayPal.
Sorry. How else can we promote you? How else can we support you? Because you're obviously a major voice in this movement that we call liberty.
Yeah, so you can also check out my podcast, which is called A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles. It's right there. I'm going to be starting that back up soon. I did an interview just the other day, and I've got some others that I need to upload. So check out my YouTube channel. You can also get it wherever you get your podcasts. So I'm going to be focusing more on that. And also, my Substack, Chasing Liberty, which is actually the same name as the book that I'm going to be coming out with within about a week or two. Yeah. And it's my first book, and it really tells the story of how I came from this world of partisan politics into the liberty movement, where I'm focused much less on party and much more on liberty. And really, it's really intended more as it's really geared towards people, whether they're conservative or Republican or what have you, people who are disaffected with their parties, but still take our natural rights seriously, but don't really see how to get there by supporting the Republican Party. It's really for people like that who are more disaffected or who are just looking for a better way to have their voice heard rather than focusing on partisan politics at the federal level. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm excited about it too. I will definitely be buying it as soon as it comes out because everything that I've read from you, including what we're going to go over tonight, are literally 2 articles that Jeff himself has wrote. Just amazing stuff here, and I really want to dive into it. The first one that I wanted to get into was what you had sent me from the Epoch Times. So, or a lot of people call it Epoch Times. I don't know. I call it Epoch Times. Sounds better to me. So Epoch Times, and this is written February of 21, right? So just a couple of days ago, literally just yesterday.
Yeah.
As member states of the World Health Organization prepare to gather in Switzerland next week to negotiate final terms of an accord that will give the WHO centralized authority over U.S. policy in the case of a pandemic, Republican senators are pushing back with an effort to reinforce congressional power to authorize treaties. Jeff, how much confidence do you have when we read an article like this and says Republican senators are pushing back?
None. I mean, I always bash the Republican Party mainly because they lie. I mean, when it comes to growing the government and making it more intrusive, Democrats are honest. They tell you that they want to make it bigger. Now they do lie about other things like that growing the government is going to be a good thing, but they do tell you they want more government. Republicans say they want less government, but they're liars because that's not true. They do want bigger government. They just want it at a slower pace than their friends on the other side of the aisle. So when I hear that Republicans are pushing back, first, I want to know who. I mean, which names are we talking about here? Because there's only a few that I might believe that with. Right. But long story short, I mean, I'm sure that there are some who are actually going to push back on this, but they don't really have the power in Congress to do much about it. What's the real test is going to be what happens when they actually do it, when and if they actually get control of Congress back.
Yeah, totally agree. That's always been my biggest issue is straight up political theater from the GOP. And here's my thing. I love what you just said about the DNC, right? At least they're honest. They're wide open about the fact that they want full-blown totalitarianism and authoritarianism all over your life. The Republicans, in my opinion, are worse because they straight up freaking lie to you in saying that they don't want that. So continuing on with the article here in regards to what you just said, 17 U.S. senators led by Ron Johnson, Republican of Wisconsin, introduced the quote-unquote no World Health Organization Pandemic Preparedness Treaty without Senate approval act. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Okay, I get that. But why on earth should we allow the WHO whatsoever to take over our freaking pandemic response? This shouldn't even be in question. What do you mean with Senate Act? Absolutely not. It is our decision whatsoever. Miss me with that. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. That really is the crux of the matter. And just to give just a little thumbnail sketch of what that deal is, basically what it could do, and I'm not saying that 100% that this is what's going to happen when they sign that deal. It depends on what it looks like at that point. It's still in draft form. But based on the language, on the verbiage, and what experts are actually saying about it, this would essentially give the WHO, and no, I'm not talking about Roger Daltrey, I'm Pete Townsend, I'm talking about the World Health Organization. It would give them the authority to dictate to us, the United States of this here America, how we can handle our COVID-19 response policies or any other pandemic as well. Yeah. Basically, we'd be abdicating our power to them in large part. So this is something that Democrats are pushing, that Biden wants to do. They're going to be discussing it in Switzerland next week, like you just said. And these Republican senators are saying, no, you can't enter into these treaties without the advice and consent of the Senate. Now, if I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, I'll say that this legislation that they proposed, they would like to get it passed so that they can then say, no, we're not going to let you give our power to such and such. That's my charitable explanation, and I hope that that's the case. But you're right, though, Noel, because this shouldn't even be on the negotiating table. There should be absolutely no way that our chief executive could actually give responsibility away and give our power away to an international body governed by people that we did not elect or have any say in.
Right.
So yeah, this is absolute. When I first saw this, I was like, I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked. Like, of course, because these people are globalists.
Right.
They want us to be more part of the global. I mean, I think somebody even complimented Biden on this, saying, "Oh, this is him being a good global citizen." Well, screw you. I don't want to be a global citizen. And I don't want somebody forcing me to be a global citizen as well. So I think that's kind of what's happening here. And that's this is all going on while we're distracted by other stuff, by all the glittery objects, the balloons in the sky and all the other stuff. I mean, this is what they do. They do it every time.
Every time, distraction is the major tool. There are two major distractions at which the government utilizes the best and most at. So miss me with this, their incompetent part. They love their distractions and they love their fear mongering. The only way government can expands its power is via fear. And that's all this is. So let's move on a little bit here and then we'll move on to the next article. Continuing with a quote from Senator Ron Johnson. The WHO, along with our federal health agencies, failed miserably in their response to COVID-19, end quote, Senator Johnson stated. So I'm sorry, if you're telling us, quite frankly, that they failed, then why are you even considering giving these people autonomy over our public health response? It just, not to beat a dead horse there, it just makes no sense to me.
I feel you.
It makes no sense. And he goes on to say, quote, with all due respect to the sponsoring senators, that will not do the trick. Francis Boyle, professor of international law at Illinois University, told the Epoch Times, the reason, he said, is that the WHO Accord is drafted specifically to circumvent the Senate approval process. Let me read that again. The reason, he said, is that the WHO Accord is drafted specifically to circumvent the Senate approval process. And Congress instead should immediately withhold its yearly contributions to the WHO and take the U.S. out of the organization. Full stop. I agree with that.
Thank you. Yes.
We should not be in the WHO whatsoever.
No, yeah, when I saw that part, I was like, yes. It ain't going to happen. But yes, I mean, we need to pull out of all of these international organizations.
Yes.
We don't need to be a part of the UN. We don't need to be a part of the WHO. And you know what? Like, even if we did want leverage over them and we can threaten to pull our money out, fine. But here's the thing. I mean, that would basically cripple them. We are the number one donor. I think it's to the tune of about $1.7 billion. It says in the article, I can't remember. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is we shouldn't really be messing with these agencies anyway. Like, there's a difference between interacting with other countries to get some best practices or maybe some advice or things like that, or see how things are going. But you do not enter the United States of America into an agreement that would give other countries power to dictate how we move, what type of legislation we pass, what type of policies that we put into place. And what's even scarier, and it's going to get to that point in the article, but I mean, when we talk about executive agreements, if what's in that article is correct, which I think it is, the president can do a lot of this stuff without even having to consult the Senate. What else can he force the country to agree to because he can't get stuff passed in Congress?
That right there, that is the issue. That's the problem. So ending with this article along the same lines of what you just exactly said. While the U.S. Constitution states that the president can make treaties, quote unquote, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur, end quote, American presidents have increasingly been signing international agreements without Senate consent, and those agreements have taken effect in the United States regardless.
And that's terrifying, isn't it? I mean, even if we go outside of the COVID issue, what happens when the United Nations or one of these other agencies want to say, you know what, these countries have too many guns? You know, people say that's a conspiracy theory, but at the same time, I mean, can we really say that couldn't happen? I mean, the United Nations wants to regulate the sale of ammo. of gun rounds and everything like that. What happens when Biden says, you know what, I can't get a law passed through Congress that'll ban assault weapons or that'll ban the guns that I want to ban. But if I enter into an international agreement that legally binds the United States into following it, then maybe that's a way that I can get my agenda through. And again, I'm not saying that this is going to happen tomorrow, but it could happen. Why couldn't it?
Right.
I mean, well, what's going to stop it?
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, at this point, the only real way to stop any of this is going to be through mass civil noncompliance. It has to be. That's the only peaceful outcome to resolving any of this tyrannical globalist governance that is literally taking place and being rooted in our own soil against our own freaking wishes at this point. It's going to have to be that. And unfortunately, for that to be effectual whatsoever, it's going to take unity. And so, yeah, let's touch on that for a second, because this is a topic that's been coming up a lot over the last, several hundred years that the country's been alive. Unity. If we're going to actually effectuate change within our country and with peace, it has to come at the behest of unity. It has to come with people, regardless of sexuality, regardless of religion, regardless of skin color. And that all has to come with a success in despite of all the major media networks and the literal government on every level, federal, state, and local, telling us that there's a war between people like you and me that don't look alike. How do we get past that?
Earlier you said that the government stays in power by using distraction and fear. And in this case,
Correct.
It is fear. Our government does not derive its consent, our government does not derive its power from the consent of the governed. It derives its power from the fear of the fearful. It makes us afraid. First off, we're afraid of the government. They have a monopoly on violence. If you don't pay your taxes, at the end result, they'll send men with guns to your home to throw you in a cage. That's going to make people fearful. But it's not just fear of the government. We're afraid of each other. This whole political division and lack of unity that we're seeing today, that's not organic. That was manufactured. That was manufactured by the powers that be on the Republican and Democrat side. It's not just one. So, I mean, and to be fair, we have been divided before in this nation many times.
Yes.
But it's different because in this case, I really do see that with the advent of digital media, it's on steroids now. So I think the way that we really get back to unity is one, to get over that fear, to recognize that we are being ruled by fear, and that if we're going to have fear, we need to be afraid of the right thing, because that fear can turn into anger and actually affect action. It's not black versus white. It's not straight versus LGBTQ. It's not Republican versus Democrat. It's authoritarianism versus liberty. If you're a Democrat, but you want to leave me alone, I can probably rock with you. I can probably rock. I know there may not be a whole lot of those left, but I can probably rock with you.
Yeah.
But if you are an authoritarian Republican who wants to lock people in cages because they smoke weed, you're my enemy. And I mean, this we got to get people to see that being governed the way that the authoritarians want you to be governed, it just leads to slavery. It doesn't lead to anything good. And the third thing is, I think we have to recognize that not everybody wants to be free. Not everybody wants liberty. So we need unity among those who do. Those who do want to be left alone, those are the people who we can have unity with. We can't really have unity with authoritarians because they want to rule us. Let the people who want to be ruled, as long as they're not doing it to us. People got so mad at Marjorie Taylor Greene for saying that we need a national divorce, which, I'm sure, I don't take her seriously, so I'm assuming she said that to get clicks, but I don't care why she said it.
Right.
She made a good point. Now, I don't think that national divorce will look the way that she thinks it does. I think it looks more the way you said, Noel, as far as people uniting under liberty, not complying. Yes. Yeah, I mean, nullification is like my favorite word over the past couple months. It's like my favorite word, because what if enough of us didn't comply? What if, I know this is pie in the sky, but what if 70% of Americans did not pay taxes? our government will go broke. They couldn't do a damn thing about it. You don't need
let me
70% of people.
absolutely. Let me interject here. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you're
No,
speaking
I
my
was
language right
filibustering.
now.
I wanted to stop anyway.
It's something that I've been hammering on. It's something that, again, I've learned from Spike Cohen. He's a good friend. He's a mentor. And it is summed up in a singular phrase: reality of power. Let me explain. I know, Jeff, you probably already understand. I'm speaking to the audience. I'm speaking to everyone that may not come across this terminology yet. Reality of power. Okay. Explanation. Or let me give you a good analogy. If everyone is driving down the interstate and the speed limit says 70 miles per hour, but everyone else does 80 miles per hour, what are they going to do? What can they do? They are less than 1% of our population. We make up the mass majority. They might be able to pull over a couple of people and give you a speeding ticket or two. But the vast majority of people will not, because they cannot control us. It is mass civil disobedience. It is just for good men to disobey unjust laws. I'm paraphrasing. I'm pretty sure that's a Martin Luther King Jr. quote, actually, off the top of my head now. But reality of power. Jeff has the power to say, you can institute whatever, illusionary laws that you think might exist. But if those laws aren't enforceable simply because the law enforcement won't comply, and even if they do, the vast majority of the population says no, then there is no conversation to be had. It's the end of it. And that is why I agree. I am an anarchist at heart, a libertarian by basic rules of the game, right? Because we do have a government. Yeah, by trade. We have a government, so we have to figure out how to work within it. So when I look at people like Michael Malice, a straight up anarchist, and also listen to people like Steve Dace, who's an avid Christian and staunch conservative, and both which agree with me in saying that this is a nation not built on law and order. This is a nation built on political will. What are you willing to do politically? That's how we solve these problems.
I think you're right. I mean, there's so much there. I mean, a nation built on law and order, when the people charged with enforcing law and order don't follow law and order themselves because law and order doesn't apply to them. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into the police, but that's just one example. Look at our elected officials. They can do whatever the hell they want. They're not going to get arrested. I mean, they have to, like Trump said, they'd have to shoot somebody on Main Street to get any type of accountability. They have to go to that extreme. But I think it's like, and the other example that I use as far as non-compliance, and Spike Cohen actually tweeted this out, what happened in Hawaii over New Year's Eve when they were shooting off all those fireworks. And everybody was shooting off fireworks. It was a huge fireworks show, but it was just spontaneous. And that's illegal in Hawaii. But guess what? There were too many people doing it, so they couldn't enforce the law. And honestly, I don't think that the police would even want to enforce those laws because they're dumb. So I think that the reality is just, I think people have to wake up and understand the situation that we're in. I think that the media and our politicians have done an expert job, a masterful job of convincing us that we are in a situation where the people who don't vote like you do are your enemies. If you're a Republican, you'll go after Democrats no matter what they do. You can have somebody on your side do the exact same thing, and then you'll excuse it because it's on Team Red. We have to get out of thinking about Team Red and Team Blue. We have to start focusing on, instead of focusing on right and left, we need to focus on right and wrong. And that's not happening enough yet. But I'm hoping that more people are starting to wake up to this.
Oh, man, I love that so much. I could literally preach, or I hate to use that word, even as a Christian, even as a devout disciple of Jesus Christ. I don't like using that word preach. I could pontificate on reality of power all day long, because that is how our nation is built. And in reality, if you're an armed society, which is a polite society, that is how everything exists. Every political structure exists. Don't forget that you need to go to chasingliberty.substack.com. He writes for Liberty Nation and Red State. Author of Chasing Liberty. That's releasing when, Jeff?
It's going to be on the 25th, I believe.
Awesome. Can't wait. I can't wait to read it. I really can't, because you've sent me 2 of your articles, and I'm fascinated by them. It's very rare for me, and I mean this quite genuinely. It's very rare for me to come across a political article in which I could sit down, and most of these I just dissect and extrapolate the information that's most needed. In both of these articles that you talk about, that you sent me, I could almost read word for word the entire article. Obviously, that would be terrible for TV and radio, and so we won't do that. But let's go to the first article that you have written that you sent me. Google expands its war on quote unquote misinformation. Is pre-bunking about fake news or something more insidious? By Jeff Charles, Liberty Nation. You just published this today, or at least that's what it said, February 2022.
Yep.
So let me read a little bit of this and let you break it down for us. The misinformation or disinformation field has exploded in popularity over the past decade. Forces in American society have been using these terms as a pretext for suppressing certain viewpoints on big tech platforms. Now, the world's largest and most used search engine company is getting deeper into the game. Proponents of this endeavor have tried a series of methods to tackle the quote-unquote problem of what they call misinformation, but now it appears that they may have found a new favored strategy: pre-bunking. Now, because of our time constraints, I'm going to skip forward to your personal definition of pre-bunking, which I actually did print out, because again, this entire article is freaking amazing. So go and read it, y'all. It's outstanding. So let me defer to you, Jeff, and what you mean by that, and how dangerous that you describe it to be.
Yeah. So pre-bunking, to make it quick. Okay, let me go back in time a little bit. You guys remember when Trump came onto the scene and Democrats and members of the activist media were warning us about the rise of fake news. That was their favorite term. They use fake news, and they use that as an excuse to try to suppress certain types of voices. The problem is that President Trump took that term from them and started using it against them. So they had to come up with something else. And they've been trying out different words over the past few years. I can't remember them all. But now they have settled on misinformation and disinformation. So misinformation is if I accidentally say something that isn't true. Disinformation is when I deliberately try to deceive you by making up false information, that type of thing. So, I mean, you just watch CNN and you'll see both. But the thing about misinformation and disinformation is that this is what they're using as a pretext to censor certain voices on social media, big tech platforms, what have you. So their excuse is that, we need to suppress these voices because they're misleading people, and that could be dangerous. Now, that sounds good off the get-go until you realize that they only consider non-progressive opinions, arguments, and information as misinformation and disinformation. If you're a conservative or a libertarian, then you're fair game. So usually they do this by censoring stuff that's already been posted. So like if I post something on Twitter, they don't like it, they shut it down, before Elon Musk. But now what they're doing, and this, I found out about this last year sometime, they're trying out a new strategy called pre-bunking. So instead of debunking, they're pre-bunking. And what they're doing is that they're using videos on YouTube. Now they've tried this and they've tested this in America, and Google specifically has expanded this to Europe. But they have these videos that they use to educate people on how to recognize misinformation and disinformation. And in their words, they say that this is going to inoculate people against misinformation, and almost like a vaccine that you can, so that when you see these videos that pop up on your screen, or that you're taking a survey or whatever, now you're more likely to disbelieve information that looks like what they say is misinformation. So they're calling it inoculation. What this is, it's conditioning. So it's conditioning these users to automatically dismiss anything that might resemble conservative, libertarian or populist thought. And by doing that, they get people to buy into more of the progressive narrative. It is one of the most insidious and clever things that I have ever seen, which is why I'm trying to sound the alarm on this. And Google is getting more into this game. I mean, before it was different organizations, Google was kind of doing it, but now they're expanding their efforts. Oh, they even use online games to do this too. Our State Department is doing this in embassies across the world. There's one I'll tell you about, but I'll go ahead and pause right there for a quick.
No. Go ahead and tell. Well, here, let me go. Now that you said that, I did find it. Let me give a little backstory here to what Jeff is talking about, y'all, because this is absolutely freaking frightening. And what he says is exactly correct. To put it simply, pre-bunking is a practice ostensibly designated to, quote unquote, inoculate people against the spread of misinformation on digital platforms. Rather than publishing information to expose supposedly false claims, it relies on conditioning individuals to view certain types of arguments as, quote unquote, fake news even before they encounter them. This objective is accomplished through the use of strategic videos, ads, and even online games like Cat Park, which is funded by the State Department. And that institution is called the Global Engagement Center, the GEC, to crack down on the impact of populism on foreign elections. Google, through its Jigsaw unit, has been one of the entities at the forefront of this pre-bunking initiative, as Just the News reported. This is nothing short of Orwellian. This is 1984 come to life.
And guess who's paying for it? And guess who's paying for it? We are. Our taxpayer money is paying for this. It's actually even worse than this, Noel, because this is just Google. I mean, Google is doing a lot of this stuff, but there are certain efforts that are being funded by our State Department. And like the Global Engagement Unit, like you said, that is a wing of the State Department. Our government is actively colluding with companies like Google to pre-bunk narratives that they don't like. Like you read the part about Cat Park. I want everybody listening to this right now, because I know your audience is savvy, so they're not going to fall for this. Look up Cat Park, play the game. Because I actually wrote a whole article about Cat Park a while ago. And I played the game and I was like, wow. Because this game is supposed to teach you how to spot misinformation. But as you're playing it, you see some familiar type of tropes or I don't know what the word is, some similar type of wording structure that might be used in conservative media or libertarian media. And you can just see what they're trying to do. And the thing is, they do mix in truth with it. So they'll teach you about how, you want to be aware of sensational headlines. Well, yeah, that's true no matter who's doing it. You want to, make sure that you're consuming something that's accurate, but they mix in the truth with the lies, and it's all designed to condition. I'm not going to use the word brainwash because that's something different. This is conditioning.
Right.
You are being conditioned to dismiss information that they don't like.
Yeah, groomed. I mean, conditioned,
groomed. Yeah.
Are those really two different etymological differences? I don't think so. And so to really wrap this up, and man, when I tell y'all that we could, here, look, let me blow myself. I forgot to do it last time. I do all this by myself, y'all. I'm sorry. I forget to do certain things. I'm wrapped up in the moment because it's just such frightening information, but it's information that can be combated by you, we the people. We can solve this. This seems like an insurmountable mountain that can't be climbed, but it can. It can. So let me give you the last couple of sentences of this paragraph that Jeff Charles, my man on the screen, has written. I'll start a little bit back here and then we'll proceed. The Associated Press pointed to the problem that Jigsaw and other organizations wish to solve. Quote, while belief in falsehoods and conspiracy theories isn't new, the speed and reach of the internet has given them heightened power, the AP noted. Let me stop right there and let everyone know that, again, this is fear porn. They use this language that is guised as your safety when it is at its root and intention authoritarian in nature. That's all it is. But they use this stuff to pretend and trick you into thinking they're for your safety when they're not. It's the opposite of that. All right, carry it on. Sorry.
Mhm.
Quote, when catalyzed by algorithms, misleading claims can discourage people from getting vaccines, spread authoritarian propaganda. Let me back up a little bit from getting vaccines. All
Yeah.
right, I have to put that
Yeah.
there. Sorry. Spreading authoritarian propaganda, foment distrust in democratic institutions. This goes
Yeah.
on. It's as if, look, the democratic institutions breed the most distrust. They are the reason that there are distrust. It isn't because of people like me with 50 something thousand followers online. You've got, and that's me across platforms. You got 70,000 followers on Twitter alone. It isn't because of that. It's because you've sown the distrust within the public yourselves, institutions. It is not because of us. Sorry.
No, it's crazy. You can't make this stuff up.
You can't. It's crazy. It's why it's gaslighting at its finest. It is just absolute. Oh, it's maddening. It's not maddening that they do it, right? Like that pisses me off. Of course,
Right.
it's maddening that people continuously still fall for this obvious lies, rhetoric, and propaganda for the machine,
Yep.
like we're seeing in Ukraine right now. Throw that little bit in there. Sorry. All right, let's continue on, and then I'm wrap it up so I can get you out of here. The report touted the technique, explaining that pre-bunking videos, quote, are relatively cheap and easy to produce and can be seen by millions when placed on popular platforms. Oh, I see. So what we have to say, because it's so easy for us now, because you don't control the channel of information that goes to the people, because we have this thing called the internet and podcasts that people like this try actually tune in and listen to, which I've only been doing this a year and a half and already one of the largest and fast growing podcasts in the world. It's a fact, check it. Now you're mad at us for it. You're mad at us for it. So we're the
Of course.
problem. We're the problem. All right, wrapping up. Google is one of the most influential digital entities on the face of the earth. Now, it is working with the most powerful government in the world to mold people's opinions on important issues. Google and the United States government are actively working together on the means to condition or groom people to automatically dismiss opinions they don't align with. When it becomes to progressivism, because that's really the root of it, right? If
Yep.
you don't align with progressivism or hardcore leftism, then you know what? You're not in our club.
Yeah, no, we're going to make you do it. I mean, remember, these people are authoritarians. So if they can't persuade you to buy into their stupidity, then what they will do is they will use the power of the government and the power of big business to suppress voices and to condition you to accept what they're saying instead of trying to sit down and have a normal conversation with you. No, they want to manipulate you. They want to suppress your voice. They want to make sure that you're not able to say what you want to say. I mean, this is a whole different story. Maybe, and we'll probably talk about this another time, but there's another group called the Global Disinformation Index. And what they are doing is they are attacking conservative and libertarian news outlets online because the right has been able to use alternative media to push back against what the activist establishment media is doing, and they don't like it. What they're doing is they're going after their advertisers by labeling these sites like Red State, where I write, Reason Magazine, Washington Examiner, all these different sites, to label them as misinformation so that companies won't advertise on them, thereby attacking one of their main streams of income. So yeah, guys, these guys are authoritarian. This is not a persuasion thing. This has no positive motivations to it. On the list of trusted sites, they're all left-wing sites, with the exception of the Wall Street Journal. Everyone else is left-leaning. So the bias is blatant. These people aren't really even hiding it all that well. They just know that most of us aren't going to see it because we're not paying as much attention.
That's it. That you just said, just freaking nailed it right there. That we're not paying as much attention. And Jeff, I would love to have you back on the show to dive off into this more, if you're okay with that. I'm going to give everyone a preview. Thank you very much. I'm going to give everyone a preview exactly what you're talking about, so that when we come back again, we're going to lead off with this, and it's absolutely detrimental, because this is one of the biggest issues that I've seen in a long time right here.
Mhm.
We're talking about, why are people paying the government to censor them? And we actually do have a few Republicans in Congress. Hopefully we'll have some Democrats join on, and pray to God we have some actually libertarians or liberty-minded people like Justin Moss and Thomas Massey get in on this. Over the past 3 years, the state has been paying various entities to crack down on conservative and libertarian thought on social media. Again, this article, y'all, we're going to dive into this later. Another article by my man that's on the screen right now, Jeff Charles. In a new series titled Disinformation Inc., the Washington Examiner has been blowing the lid off a collaboration between the federal government and an organization called the Global Disinformation Index, a GDI, which seeks to target conservative and libertarian news sites by attacking their advertising revenue. By the way, to give you a sneak preview, everyone, later on you're going to find out the United States government, are paying people, paying them to silence you. So
And they've been doing it for years.
They've been doing it for years. And if the United States government is paying to censor you, then who's paying for it?
And I'm laughing at it. It's really not funny, but it's just so absurd. Like I said, you can't make this stuff up. You and I are paying to get censored. I mean, we're paying the government to pay an organization to censor us. It's wild.
It's beyond reality. It is beyond the scope of any realistic. Look, let me say it like this. To say that 1984 is analogous is an understatement at this point. Realistically.
Yeah, I don't think Orwell could have even imagined this stuff.
Right? Like, he did the best he could in the time frame that he was living in.
Yeah.
This is beyond any scope that he would have thought imaginable. This is beyond the scope of Soylent Green. This is beyond the scope of 1984 Animal Farm, A Brave New World. Mm-hmm. This is beyond the comprehension of those writers of those times. Saul Alinsky's Role for Radicals. Excuse me. We're well beyond that point, because what we're witnessing in real time, which is being covered up, at the same time, you've got people like Jeff sitting on screen with me right now who is uncovering this. It is beyond the pale of comparison to anything that we've witnessed in history. And I cannot wait to talk to you more about it, because I don't think people really grasp the scope and danger of what we're actually staring down. While at the same time, the people that do, I don't think they understand that we can actually fight and win this. So this is something that we must continue to have a conversation about. Jeff, please shout out anything you have left, and I'm going to get you out of here, my man.
Yeah. So check out my book, Chasing Liberty. You can see it on my Twitter handle, which my Twitter is Jeff Charles Jr. Check out my podcast, A Fresh Perspective with Jeff Charles. Check out my writing on libertynation.com, redstate.com, also Newsweek Opinion. And and check out our Liberty Spaces on Twitter. That's with me and Donnie the Don. So we do those pretty much every night, Monday through Friday at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. So check us out.
Outstanding. Jeff, thank you for joining the show. And for those of you that are brand new listeners, which I have every single episode, which is wild to me. Like, I'm still very much a noob at this stuff, y'all. I'm just passionate. I care about it. And I look at people like Jeff. I see what they're doing. And then I reach out in hopes that Jeff's going to talk back to me like, dude, let's come on the show, please. Follow me on Twitter so I can DM you and all that. And that's exactly what happened, Jeff. I was like, hey, I would really like this guy to follow me. He followed me back, and now he's on the show spitting groundbreaking material that he has written, just amazing individuals. So if you like the show, and I hope you do, you should like this one specifically, because this is amazing. One of the best podcasts I feel like I've done in a while. While he's mentioning Donnie the Don, who I just had on the show like a week or two ago, we're just person after person after person. So follow him, chasingliberty.substack.com. Buy the book. I promise you, as soon as the book comes out, it will be in order for my mailbox, because you're talking to somebody who is obviously well read and well researched, somebody who has their thumb on the pulse of society. Society. You're going to be very successful, and you have your thumb on the pulse of society. Yeah, all of the above. So, Jeff, thank you so much for joining the show, man. I would really love to have you back again very soon so we can talk about the other things that you have going on, the other things that you're writing, because your voice is so crucially important.
Awesome. I appreciate you, brother. This has been fun. We got to do it again really soon. I want to come back. We got to talk more about this stuff.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you so much for agreeing to come back again. I'll talk to you really soon, brother.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Absolutely freaking amazing. What an incredible show. The guy is outstanding. You know how rare it is to have someone to come on that you're really reading articles from them, groundbreaking articles from them. Exceptional. Exceptional. Not only is that exceptional, it's the fact that you got two sides of this story. Number one, you have the nightmarishly evil and Orwellian top-down control coming that Jeff Charles is highlighting. You also have answers, positivity, enthusiasm on how to remedy these situations. Those two things rarely meet together. It's rare that you find people that can orchestrate and manipulate. A lot of people hate that word manipulate. We'll go with orchestrate. Can blend those two things together. Here's what's happening, but we can fix this. Go follow Jeff Charles on Twitter. Buy his book, Chasing Liberty. I'll put it back up really quick. And I don't know if this is even a controversy or not. Oh, it's already up there. Sorry. But no, I asked him to come on this program. He's not paying me or anything like that to promote his book or promote his Substack. No, I hate that. I hate it. I asked him to come on here because I admire what he's doing. And I think he has great answers. And these are the people that we should be paying attention to. And I'm going to continue to have people like him on this show. Period. Because we need to be informed about what's going on. And we need to have answers on how to solve it. So please like, sub, share the show, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're following me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, which I literally have thousands of people doing, that's wild to me. I don't understand it. I don't, but I do. Please leave me a 5-star review. I have over 100,000 downloads on podcast format. That's the Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and that's only within 100 and less than 10 episodes. This is wild to me, but I can't do it without y'all. Thank you so much. Help me move this forward, because I really do feel like, because I can have people like this on, that we can push this over the edge. So if you like the show, subscribe to it, share it to your friends. Very soon, I'm going to be starting to stream to YouTube only, because I need the hours over there so that I can make all of this a little bit easier on my end, so that when I get these, when I have to have new equipment, when I have to have anything I have to pay for, then I can do it without asking you for money, but I can just get it being paid through YouTube. But I have the followers now, I have the subscribers now, but I don't have the watch hours. So I'm asking all of you to please start watching the show on YouTube so that I can get those hours and so that I can pay for everything I need to keep this movement going. I don't make any money off of this. None whatsoever. Every penny that gets put into the show from you goes back into the show. It goes back into the platform. And it's only because of that I can keep this whole operation running. And so I can't thank you enough because, again, this is so wildly important. We're losing our country by the day. We're losing it by the hour. And I think you all know it, right? You wouldn't be here if you didn't. It's freaking February. Nobody listens to politics in February. That's why the viewership is down, other than when I have great guests on like Jeff, right? The viewership is down. The downloads are down. Just being transparent with you, because people don't care about politics in February. The vast majority of people are, in fact, normies who aren't informed. They only pay attention during election season. That's just the reality. So I want specifically to have the people that aren't engaged in the times that the media is telling you to be engaged. F that nonsense. We should be engaged all the time. We have to be. They sneak past the most ridiculously tyrannical and authoritarian crap when we're not engaged. We have to be engaged. In order to do that, I need your help. And the best way to do that without asking you directly for money is to subscribe and watch on YouTube. I will start up a Rumble channel here soon. I don't want to ask for money. I hate it. Can't stand it. Everybody needs their money. You know, everybody. This is a tough time. Inflation is through the roof. Your eggs and your gas cost the same damn amount as your rent, just about, or your mortgage. I don't want to ask people for money. And I'm probably not gonna. If I'm in a stupid bind, which I actually was this month, and I still didn't ask you for money because I hate it. I found other ways, you know, because I don't want to do that. Everybody's pressed for money. It's easier if you just subscribe to the YouTube channel, share it with your friends, tell people about the show, because I know you enjoy it. I get so much feedback about how much people love this show. And it literally is one of the fastest and largest growing podcasts on the planet. Don't forget that every Monday through Friday, I have a special Liberty lunch break segment from Off the Wire. The topic du jour, it airs at noon Central every Sunday. It's a 5 to 10 minute segment. It's not long at all. Watch it on YouTube. Very short, usually lighthearted and very fun. And so please watch that too. That will add to the hours. All of it helps. All of it helps. And it's entertaining. I want to give y'all good news. I want to give you great positive people like this and great positive news, albeit with the warnings involved. I get it. So, with that being said, technically, I will see you tomorrow, same cage of time, same cage of channel. But also, don't forget that every Wednesday night and Sunday night at 6 Central, I will be live with Off the Wire, one of the most popular and fastest growing shows literally on the planet. With that being said, I love you very much, and I'm out.